Come with me. We're going to go pick up some protein powder and some fresh flowers. And when I return, I'm going to share with you one technique, a somatic technique that will help you release resentment from your body. As we're talking about forgiveness this week, forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of others, that you can go ahead and continue to live your most magical life. One thing I always love about Sweden is a combination of greenery with living spaces. It's always so beautiful and clean and nice. It's beautiful, right? We're coming up on one of my favorite flower shops. I'll show you. The flowers are here, the vases are filled with water, and now I'm gonna go get my apron and then we're going to start resentment. How do you feel it in your body? And what's one little somatic way to acknowledge it and release it? Resentment is a negative emotional reaction to something you're experiencing. Resentment is mistreatment for a long period of time. Part of our series in forgiveness this week has to do with understanding how resentment not only affects you and your person every day, but also how it impacts your body, which affects your quality of life. So I thought I would share with you the first time I understood the correlation between resentment and your body and how it shows up. I remember when my late husband passed away from cancer, I was being sued by his family. Can you imagine, in the middle of losing a partner, that all of these things are going on? So I was not only incredibly stressed from losing my late husband to cancer, but also dealing with the estate, dealing with the accountants, dealing with the attorneys, dealing with our portfolio manager. And the idea that somebody was suing you for money was just preposterous, but we went through it. And after I sold my house and moved Zach and I to our new house and got him settled in and ready for school, and then I came to understand with a lot of autistic people that they hold a lot of things in their body and they don't really know how to release it. So I went and got a massage therapist, and she did a lot of somatic work. And it was the first time I ever heard or understood the correlation between prolonged anger in your body and resentment and how it affects you. And some of the exercises and techniques that you can do to make it better, which I'll share with you over here. But first and foremost, it's important to understand that for myself, I had this nagging back pain for 2 years. And it didn't matter how much I walked or exercised, how many massages I got, it was there, girl. And it was just chewing away at me. And it was so difficult, and I had no idea what it was. And then when I got with Marlon, and Marlon said that this is just resentment, and then I came to understand that the only way I can get through resentment is to really identify it. And it was the first time that I saw an emotions wheel when I went to go to a therapist. And then when I opened my own practice and became a life coach through taking Martha Beck's 1-year course and became a wayfinder, I remember that I found the emotions chart. And it's something really interesting why I push so hard here on Feminine Spaces to be able to identify your emotions clearly and concisely, because we can say resentment and understand that resentment is mistreated, it's prolonged it's emotional reaction to mistreatment, right? But did you know that anger, we say that we're angry, and resentment is a second-tier word. But also part of anger is frustration, it's disappointment, it's being annoyed, it's being provoked, it's being furious, it's being resentful, it's being betrayed. So here's my emotions wheel, and do you see in the red section, underneath anger, So it's so interesting when I was able to pinpoint that correlation between having prolonged experiences of our emotions and how we don't deal with them immediately and be able to process them and move on. They stay with us, they stay in us, and they build and they grow. So part of today, understanding forgiveness when it comes to identifying resentment, is because, again, when we don't let go of the things that hurt us the most, the ones that suffer are us, because we're stuck in that moment. I can assure you, whoever did the damage to you, they're not paying attention. They don't care that you're hurting. So it's best for you to deal with it yourself. And the important thing about stepping out of your anger, because I have stickies here to remember I have everything in place for you guys, is that when you step out of your anger, you're addressing the hurt and the disappointment and understanding how the resentment evolved. And it's up to you and I, as beautiful, feminine, intelligent, accountable, and responsible women, to be accountable to ourselves first and foremost, and to identify exactly where that resentment evolved, and do our best to either speak to the person or deal with it ourselves, or go speak to a therapist about having the tools that you need in order to identify the hurt, the prolonged hurt, the prolonged anger that comes from being mistreated by someone, typically that you love, or someone that you work with, right? Is someone that's in your space all the time. And you can't tell your boss off because you kind of need your job and you have to work and pay your bills. But you can figure out, you can understand how to have a clear boundary. You can understand how to express your wants and needs and desires in whatever environment you're in. And part of being accountable and responsible to ourselves is knowing that if you don't have that skill set to be able to express your wants and needs and desires and state a boundary, which I know that after my late husband passed away, and having to deal with the accountant and having to deal with our portfolio manager and having to deal with the lawyers, as well as moving, I was not very good at, one, asking for help, two, identifying where this prolonged anger was coming from. And it was the mistreatment of people that, I thought loved me and cared for me, and they didn't. It comes out. Or as I later came to understand, is when money is involved, people become, the worst versions of themselves, and you just have to deal with that. And that was something that was really important to me, because that's where I was having this pain in my lower back. It came from the continuous stress and the reaction to being mistreated, the emotional stress that was compounded every day. And you and I here on Feminine Spaces are so focused on being accountable and responsible to ourselves and learning those skill sets. So what I actually did was just identify, this is where it came from. I understood there was nothing I could do about it when it came to my family suing me, and then to look within myself, and this was a somatic exercise. What I did was sit down, that Marlon showed me. I sat down quietly with myself, did 10 deep breaths, and really just got focused and tuned to myself. And then I scanned my body from the very top of my head all the way down to my tippy toes, and was able to identify these places in my body that were aching for some kind of resolution that I really wasn't dealing with. So by sitting there, and I said, this is hocus pocus, but I'm gonna lean into it. And I focused on my lower back and that stress and tension. And I basically just asked my body, is this coming from what I'm experiencing with my family? Is this the anger and the frustration, the unbelievable disappointment that I have towards the family who's expressing this through their own grief to me? And in my body, I have this tool that I learned a long time ago that is almost like a pendulum, where you know if this is a correct answer or it's not a correct answer. And in my body, it said yes. And then I said, am I doing all the things that I need to do for myself in order to release this? And then it was a basic no. And then I just talked to myself in my brain in this meditative state and basically came up with that I was ruminating over the situation, right? Because throughout feminist spaces, I say this quote quite often: rumination plus the past equals depression. Rumination plus the future equals anxiety. So I was feeling depressed and stressed because of, one, the continuous mistreatment, because I had an expectation that somehow in the process of my late husband passing away, and they were doing all this beforehand also, but I had like this tendency to have rose-colored glasses and just think that these people are going to come together and we're going to come together in the loss of the family member and move through this. So I was delusional, and the delusional was keeping me in the past with this expectation of this family doing something that they had no interest in doing, so they weren't fulfilling my expectation, which compounded the stress I was experiencing, and it amplified the sensation of anger and prolonged mistreatment that I was doing to myself. So by just being honest with myself and recognizing there's nothing I can do about this situation, I have done exactly what the estate stated and fulfilled everything that my late husband wanted in the will, and that everything else that's going on here has nothing to do with me and it's not my problem to solve, and that I just need to focus on taking care of myself and being good to myself and being a good person as I am. And I gotta tell you, when I woke up from that little meditation that I had there, I felt so clear and so crisp, because by just being authentically honest with myself, I was able to clearly evolve from the, here's the resentment, where does it come from? It comes from this mistreatment, and it comes from these actions, and then understanding that what am I responsible for in this mistreatment, and then identifying what I was doing to myself, and then what is the course of action? What do I want from this point forward? And then when I said I want to be at peace with myself and know that what I did was right, and right for myself, and right for the situation, and let it go. And that lifted that anger. It lifted the resentment. It lifted the mistreatment that I was feeling, but it also made me hyper accountable and responsible for myself. So instead of putting my peace of mind in the hands of other people, I put the peace of mind in myself. And that is what it means when you're stepping out of the anger and resentment and the hurt and the disappointment, and you understand that the only way you can evolve out of this challenge or situation is to be consciously choosing and letting go of the past and embracing forgiveness, which is this theme, which is forgiving what you have no control over, forgiving the people for what they know or they didn't know, because I don't want to be tethered to that moment for the rest of my life. So forgiving them for the actions that they took, not because the actions they took weren't hurtful, but more because there is no other communication. There's nothing else we could do. I know that I did what was right for myself and for my family, and that I held true to what my late husband wanted me to do in fulfilling that estate. And I walk away from that clean and go on to live my most fabulous life. So I trust by having this share on the importance of identifying resentment and circling to forgiveness of not only yourself, but the people that you're involved with, so that you can continue to live your most beautiful life, is the importance of this. I trust it helps. If you have any comments or if you have any questions, please put them below, or DM me if you want to talk to me privately about the situation that I've gone through. And as always, I appreciate your time and your attention and your love. Thanks, guys.